you from the Hudson Media Group studio. This is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine and the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, along with the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and certainly, ladies and gentlemen, the people's choice and the people's voice, and of course, the most handsome face that runs the place. It is me, Fernando Uribe, once again. Hope you're having a wonderful October. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We'll talk more about that later in the show, and obviously a great event coming right to the area later on this month. But first, as always, there's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just preface this by saying that I'm a fan of James Solomon, the man, the human being, the person. He means well. His heart's in the right place. Oftentimes, though, I disagree with him on a variety of different policy prescriptions. But here's one that I can actually get behind, and as someone who worked in our criminal justice system here in the state of New Jersey for well over 10 years, I can speak pretty intelligently about, quite frankly, what needs to improve in it. And I would argue that what the councilman in Jersey City is proposing this week, I think, is going to get us thinking. Now, once again, a very special thank you to John Highness, a member of the Pinnacle here in Hudson County, for his reporting on this story via the Hudson County View. Now, very much like he did in April of 2021, Councilman James Solomon out of Ward E in the downtown section is putting up a resolution in support of a civilian complaint review board, otherwise known as CCRB, during this upcoming week's meeting of the City Council in Jersey City, in light of a mentally ill man wielding a knife who was fatally shot by police officers. Now, he goes on to say, quote, Assembly Bill 1515 corrects the deficiencies in the existing state law that restricts a municipality's ability to create a strong CCRB by in part granting local CCRBs subpoena power and the ability to review investigations by, and in some cases, conduct concurrent investigations with internal affairs. The resolution was co-sponsored by Council President Joyce Waterman, Ward A Councilwoman Denise Ridley, and Ward F Councilman Frank Gilmore. In addition, Councilman goes on to say, quote, whereas the city believes that municipal CCRBs with the power set forth in Assembly Bill 1515, as presently constituted, are essential in order to promote transparency and public confidence in the police disciplinary process. And whereas the tragic death of Andrew Washington has made it evident that the city needs an independent investigatory body to ensure investigations of police conduct and police policies are conducted fairly. Now, James Solomon is indeed the first council member to call for the police body cam footage from Washington's fatal shooting on August the 27th to be released by the New Jersey Attorney General's office, and some actually were released on September the 22nd. Now, Washington, who was 52 years of age, who family members were saying were suffering from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder for decades, was fatally shot by police officers after he grabbed a large knife and lunged at him while having a mental episode. Now, quote, the tragic death of Andrew Washington has made it clearer than ever before that we need a strong civilian complaint review board. Members of our community should provide strong, independent oversight to ensure the police are working to rebuild trust within the community and the city. Now, Solomon, along with Gilmore, who was also quick to ask the city to implement a crisis interventionist program that was approved by the council last year to work in tandem with the Jersey Police Department as quickly as possible. Now, the resolution, which calls for the State Assembly to pass a bill introduced by Assemblywoman Angela McKnight, a Democrat out of the 31st Legislative District, notes that this would allow municipalities to adopt CCRBs with subpoena power. Let me just say this, folks, and certainly, once again, great reporting by John Highness, the editor of the Hudson County View, for giving us as much detail on this story as possible. But let me just say this. And as I said right at the onset, I have a tremendous amount of respect for James Solomon as a fellow academic, as someone who is invested in the community, and as a guy who, let's be honest, is quite admirable. He won 2 elections, really going up against the establishment in Hudson County and more specifically in Jersey City, and he was able to win pretty comfortably. So by and large, folks, and people in Ward E in the downtown like James Solomon, and they subscribe to some of the policy prescriptions that he's looking to adopt. And that's all well and good. And we'll see whether or not he is indeed a mayoral candidate in 2025. A lot of names being floated out there in terms of what James Solomon will be pursuing in terms of a higher office in the city of Jersey City. But let me just sort of address James and everybody else on the city council and people in Jersey City who are demanding a CCRB. Now, I don't have an issue with the concept, on its face value, but this is the problem, folks. Anything coming out of Trenton can get politicized and weaponized real quick. Now, if we're talking about, and again, listen, I don't want to sound like a snob here because it'll be like, oh, here's Fernando just being an academic and not giving people their just due. No, I want community input in a CCRB. But what I want more importantly on a CCRB are professionals in the field. Okay, I want either former attorneys, whether they're prosecutors or former public defenders, mental health professionals, probation officers, parole officers, corrections officers. I want the input from these criminal justice professionals. Okay? The last thing we need in Jersey City or any other city that's going to adopt a CCRB are the local activists. We all know who they are, folks. I talk about them quite often. The social justice clowns, the woke fools, right? The pronoun patrol, the alphabet mob, the publicity sluts. We all know who they are in Jersey City. We all know who they are in Hudson County. We all know who they are in New Jersey. These are the last people that I want to see even within a metric mile, okay, of any CCRB. Again, because all they are really is just emotional. They're not going to be objective. They're not going to be academic. They're not going to be rational for the most part. Folks, we see it on social media all the time, okay? Now, once again, my condolences go out to the Washington family. I feel for them. It's an unfortunate situation. We've seen the body cam footage. And once again, shout out to John Hyannis with Hudson County for publishing that, as well as the other local media outlets here in Hudson County and, of course, throughout the state of New Jersey. And we all watched certain excerpts of the body cam footage. Yes, it's unfortunate, folks. Okay? Now, having said that, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback when it comes to police practices and what you would do on the spot. And I understand, listen, I think there needs to be looking at, quite frankly, the topic of better police training, okay, better tactics. What they're learning at the police academies, I think maybe needs to be worked upon and enhanced. The idea that maybe police officers should be, for example, learning jujitsu or other forms of martial arts while in the academy. It's not just about firing a gun, folks. Okay? It's not just about reading books and memorizing statutes and elements of the New Jersey Criminal Code, okay, and maintaining sound physical fitness. That's all well and good, and that's all necessary, right? But I would also argue that let's have the best candidates out there, okay? Not just with firearms, but let's have the best candidates out there that, quite frankly, can maybe use some tactics to de-escalate a problem. Now, having said that, okay, when you watch the body cam footage, and folks, I'm not going to speak for the mayor, but I think Mayor Fulop has his position pretty clear. And it's easy for people to politicize this, and it's easy for locals to weaponize this tragic, tragic situation. But folks, I don't know about you, but, yes, I get it. And people will say, well, they're in riot gear. They're pretty protected. Folks, you can wear all you want. When you bust down a door and you see a man coming at you with a kitchen knife, we're not talking about, a box cutter. We're not talking about some little switchblade that you use to open up your packages when Amazon drops them off at your front door. We're talking about a kitchen knife. Okay, we're talking about something that, it is October, right? So for all of you that are big Halloween fans like myself and love Michael Myers, yeah, it's a pretty big knife when you look at what he was coming with. And I get it that maybe he should have been stunned. Maybe a taser should have been used. Folks, I can just tell you, as someone that's used that equipment, it's not always consistent, and it's not always a given that you're going to incapacitate somebody. Now, it's unfortunate, but when you are charging at police officers with a knife, folks, you're going to get shot. It's as simple as that. Now, having said this, and I don't want to sort of victim blame either, but I think it's important to say that if the family of Mr. Washington knew for decades, right? I'm looking at the story here, all right? And we're looking at what this specifically says, okay? If he was struggling with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder for decades, right? So let's just say, so he's 52 years old. Let's just say, we're looking at, again, I don't want to be too overly analytical here, but we're talking about decades. Is it fair to say that maybe for more than half of his adult life, he's been struggling with these two conditions? At any point in time, did his family make an effort to try to address them? Folks, again, I'm not trying to victim blame here, okay? But if you know a family member is suffering from two of the more debilitating mental health disorders that there are, schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, don't you think as a family member, it's your responsibility to at least be somewhat proactive on behalf of a family member? Folks, my parents get a cold. My parents, suffer from, let's say, a back issue or sciatica in their nerve endings in their lower back, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to be proactive. That doesn't make me a better son than anybody else. But folks, if you know a family member is struggling with a physical condition or a mental condition, don't you think at some point you have to kind of be proactive here and try to get that family member help? You see what I'm saying? And again, I'm not trying to victim blame here, but if you know this guy has been ill for decades, right? And if we're talking about 10, 20, 30 years, really at no point in time does the family member bear any responsibility about trying to hold this guy accountable or get him the help that he needs? I get it, folks. We live in this climate where it's easy to vilify the police. And we saw it 3 years ago where people like James Solomon was leading the charge about defund the police, defund the police. Well, how well did that work out for everybody? Okay? Have we not seen cities all across this country be burned to the ground and turned to absolute, I could say another word, but it's a family program. Okay? Now, I'm not sort of putting all the onus on James Solomon here, but weren't these progressives and all these social justice clowns and woke fools all about defund the police? Well, that didn't work out very well, did it? Okay? Now more than ever, with our quality of life deteriorating, okay, with an incompetent president in the White House, with an even more incompetent vice president, assisting him, with a Justice Department weaponizing at every single turn, and obviously attorney generals all around the country, even here, aren't really trying to contribute to the quality of life in our state. Don't you think at least we should have a little more confidence and support of the police? And I get it, there's bad apples in every profession, folks. That's why training should be enhanced. That's why we should maybe reevaluate training for police officers. But folks, the idea that these officers were wrong, I get it, you're in full riot gear, but folks, a guy's coming at you with a knife, and I'm looking at a stun gun in one hand or a gun in the other, I'm shooting your ass. I'm sorry. I don't care how cruel that sounds. That's what I'm doing, and I bet you all of you would do the exact same thing. So stop Monday morning quarterbacking, get down from your sanctimonious, perch, and get off your high horse. We're humans like everybody else. These officers, I'm sure, will have to live with that mistake for the rest of their lives. But you know what? If it means between me going home to see my family or me ending up in the morgue, I'm going to shoot you before you come at me with a knife. And I think that's the lesson we should learn here. But the other lesson, too, and again, I don't want to sound like it's victim blaming, but at any point in time, does the family of Mr. Washington want to accept any responsibility? You knew this guy was ill for a very, very long time. And were you doing anything about it? It clearly wasn't working. So I think responsibility needs to be distributed all around. And to say nothing of the fact, the last people that I want on a CCRB are these same emotional social justice activists and clowns, a lot of them are, right? Whether it's like local organizations or anything else that want to make decisions with subpoena power. Nah, those aren't the men and women I want overseeing a CCRB. I'll go with the criminal justice professionals because that's what they are. Exactly that. They're professionals. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now some local stories for your consideration. Let's keep it in Jersey City. And a special thank you to Ron Zettlinger from the Jersey Journal for his reporting on this story. Now, the Jersey City chapter of the NAACP will hold its first membership meeting in more than 2.5 years this week, where newly appointed leaders of the local branch will be sworn in. Now, the chapter was suspended by the national organization early in 2021 over a controversy surrounding then-President Reverend Nathaniel Legay and various alleged violations of the organization's bylaws. Now, the chapter was reinstated earlier this year when former Jersey City detective and former Assemblyman Charles Maynor was named acting president of the chapter. In September, Maynor was installed as president, Katia Roberts as the first vice president, Floyd Jeter as the second vice president, Hakeem Washington as treasurer, and Sade Benton as its secretary. Now, the meeting obviously will be held in Jersey City. The Reverend Javier Richardson, who is a branch executive board member, is also a pastor at the church where the upcoming meeting will indeed be taking place. According to a flyer distributed last week, quote, the meeting is for all those interested in becoming a new member or renewing their previous membership. There is a meeting to give people a chance to get back on board, understand what is going on, become a part of committees, and to move the Jersey City NAACP branch forward, according to a statement released by Mr. Maynard, who noted that the executive meeting coming up will be the first Tuesday of each month, and the general membership meeting will be the second Tuesday of each month. Now, the installation of officers in the first membership meeting comes ahead of the October 18th groundbreaking on the remediation of Liberty State Park's interior and public meeting afterwards, as well as the finalization of the State Department of Environmental Protection's Liberty State Park Advisory Task Force. By law, the 23-member task force will include Maynard as the president of the city NAACP branch and Richard Smith as the president of the NAACP's state conference. Well, folks, let me just say this. As someone who is a card-carrying member and a dues-paying member of the NAACP, you can see right here, obviously, my membership card. I'm very proud of that. Okay, and as a person of color, I know some of you may struggle to accept that, but you have to just acknowledge it and really just suck it up, as they say. But you know what? Good job by Mr. Maynard being involved with the installation of a new executive board and certainly trying to get the NAACP branch up and running after some controversial months back in 2021. So congratulations once again to the Jersey City NAACP for pretty much coming back from the dead. And hopefully we'll get residents involved and engaged. And to the point Mr. Zentlinger made in the article, folks, with the upcoming Liberty State Park interior and public meeting afterwards, and again, there's a lot to be talked about what's the best course of action moving forward for Liberty State Park, whether it's the People's Park Foundation with Bob Hurley, the NBA, the Basketball Hall of Famer and Jersey City legend at St. Anthony's High School, or other individuals involved with the organization, and those that really want to see Liberty State Park moving forward and for it ultimately to become a destination for families, regardless of skin color, regardless of background or ethnicity. I think this is a good first step to have good, honorable people like Charles Maynard leading the way for the Jersey City NAACP. So you know what? As a card-carrying member, you know what? I might have to check out a meeting later on this month as a member of the NAACP in Jersey City. And now let's move to the Mouse Square City of Hoboken. And once again, a special thank you to John Hines, the editor of the Hudson County Review, for his reporting on this story. Now, Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala opened up about a letter last year that he received that said in part, quote, "We are ready to kill you," obviously in an email blast that he sent recently. Now, he went on to say, quote, "As you may have heard, my friends, neighbors, and colleagues were sent several unsolicited and unwanted packages to our homes that contained racially charged, sexually explicit, and threatening messages, all connected to local politics," referring to a municipal court case with a local resident that was settled in June. Quote, "And last year, my family opened the mail to read multiple death threats that have been made against us. These threats were investigated by law enforcement who continue to diligently pursue the persons who made them." Now, the undated letter that was allegedly sent to Bala's home is written in black pen on a piece of notebook paper, and while the grammar is poor, contains several threatening phrases. Quote, "Now it's time to kill you, blanking blank, itch. We have already 27 people to kill you. We are ready to kill you on the street. We're ready to blow up your house. Do not walk in the street." Again, just poor grammar and punctuation and spelling, to be honest. Ending with violent threats to his wife and kids. Now, a spokesman for Ravi Bala, New Jersey's first Sikh mayor, said he's received at least 3 death threats since taking office in 2018, and the most recent one referenced here was sent about a year ago. Well, let me say this. I mean, notwithstanding my dislike for Ravi Bala, I think he's a clown, I think he's a snake, and I think he's the textbook definition of a political opportunist. But Ravi Bala doesn't deserve this. His family doesn't deserve this. Okay, his wife and his children, they can't help that their father and husband collectively is a snake. That's not their fault. Okay, or that he's an opportunist, or that he's a panderer, or that he's a virtue signaler. It's not his family's fault. They shouldn't have to bear the brunt of his stupidity. That's not right. Okay, I can separate my dislike for Ravi Bala and my propensity to want to ridicule him because he's such an ass, right? But I can also separate that from the fact that this is wrong. And you can disagree with people, okay? You can have, disagree with them vehemently. But the idea of taking it to that level is just unacceptable, and it's criminal. Now, I'm not sure what the details were from the settlement in June, but let's be honest, folks. I mean, really? This, unfortunately, is another reminder of how toxic our political dialogue has become. Not just in New Jersey, but really around the United States. And I get it that Ravi Bala doesn't do himself any favors because he's really unlikable, right? We all saw that during Pride Month. We all saw that with his constant virtue signaling and pandering. Again, he's not the only one guilty of this, folks. I mean, the rest of the Lollipop Guild in Hoboken is just as guilty as him. Emily Jabor, Phil Cohen, Joe Quintero, and the rest of his minions and the rest of the clowns that enable him at City Hall. But under no circumstances whatsoever does someone like Ravi Bala deserve this. Listen, I can disagree with him. I can think he's a clown, which he is. I can think he's a fool, which he is. And he conducts himself as both on a regular basis. But under no circumstances does that give anyone the opportunity or the ammunition, excuse the pun, to want to go send threatening letters to his home, threatening packages, sending death threats. I mean, folks, come on. This is the worst of the worst here. So, folks, let's do better. And I get it that Ravi Bala doesn't do himself any favors, especially even now since he's considering a primary run against U.S. Representative Robert Menendez in the 8th Congressional District. I'm sure he's not going to win any friends over with this sort of opportunist stunt and tactic, if you want to call it that. But again, he doesn't deserve, and as much as I dislike Ravi, trust me, he doesn't deserve this. Neither does his family, neither do friends of his or colleagues. Again, you can disagree with the guy, dislike him for his policies, but leave it at that. To take it that personally, to engage in criminality, that's just wrong. For anybody, whether it's Ravi Bala, whether it's, Attorney General Matt Platkin, who's pretty useless himself, or the Emperor Phil Murphy, or anyone that, let's say, we disagree with, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, conservatives or liberals, progressives, Tea Party activists, whoever, okay? Let's do better, folks. I mean, this political climate is toxic enough as it is. We don't need to make it any more toxic, especially in Hoboken, here in Hudson County. Lastly, folks, it is October, and as a reminder, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And as you all know, I am proud to volunteer for the American Cancer Society. I've been doing so since 2008. And coming up on Thursday night, October the 26th, I'll bring you the 2023 edition of A Professor's Quest to Save Breasts, which, by the way, since 2008 has raised almost $60,000 to benefit the American Cancer Society. Let me just give you a little bit more of detail here why this cause is so important. So for over 100 years, ladies and gentlemen, the American Cancer Society has been working hard with communities all across this country in providing relief for families, dealing with the tragedy and the ongoing issues that cancer presents for all of us. Whether it's for men or women, folks, breast cancer is a serious ailment that continues to kill millions of people all around the globe every single year. And here in the United States, the American Cancer Society works hard, especially here in New Jersey, with their Making Strides campaign to help women and their families and men alike as well during the very difficult time, whether it's providing rides to chemo, whether it is providing other resources and amenities, let's be honest, become very difficult to attain while dealing with the stress and, quite frankly, the problems that breast cancer brings every single year. So on Thursday night, October the 26th, I'm proud to partner with my amazing co-hosts, the beautiful Christina Kostovsky, the gorgeous Sandra Ramirez, the stunning Courtney Gilroy, and certainly one of the hardest working men I've ever met, Vladimir Carrero. And together, we'll greet you upon arriving at Lolita's, which is located in North Bergen along River Road. And folks, it's one of the more iconic venues in Hudson County. Upon arriving, we will ask you for a suggested donation of $20. We'll also have plenty of happy hour specials all evening long. Dinner reservations are available, as well as DJ Ezekiel Ziggy Roman, one of the leading realtors in Hudson County. He'll be playing magnificent music all night long, folks. There'll be excellent networking opportunities, and most importantly, of course, there'll be an amazing raffle with prizes being donated from businesses all over Hudson County. And folks, let me just preface this by saying this is a very important cause for me. Well, I've been very fortunate in my family that my grandmother, who has since passed, living well over 100 years, was never, never suffered or even affected by breast cancer. And thankfully, neither is my mother or my aunt. And I'm most grateful for that. But not everyone is as fortunate. And you know what? Seeing it firsthand from friends of my family to colleagues to neighbors to lifelong high school alumni to fellow Rutgers alumni for me. I've seen it all when it comes to breast cancer. And you know what? I've worked hard for 15 years now to make sure that I'm doing my part to help the American Cancer Society and, more importantly, making strides against breast cancer, obviously in Jersey City and all throughout the state of New Jersey. This cause is personal for me. I've seen firsthand what breast cancer can do, how it destroys lives, how it destroys families, how it just destroys people altogether. And it's painful, folks. It's not something I wish on anybody. And you know what? It's important to do our part. Yes, we can write a check. Sure, we can donate online. And that's all you can do. Great. You're doing your part. But if you can get involved and do more, then do that. And that's what I've been proud to do since 2008, whether it's hosting it in the smallest of venues to even the biggest of venues. For 15 years, it's a cause I take very, very seriously. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, mark it on your calendars, and I look forward to seeing you all coming up on Thursday night, October the 26th, starting at 7 p.m. for the 2023 edition of A Professor's Quest to Save Breasts. All proceeds that evening will benefit the American Cancer Society and making strides against breast cancer. And also on a final note, it's way too many businesses to list at the moment, but trust me, on that evening, you'll have a beautiful step and repeat to acknowledge all the outstanding local businesses that are supporting this cause and, quite frankly, are joining the fight with me, hopefully, where we can defeat breast cancer once and for all. And that's our show for this week. Once again, to check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Once you click on the menu, you can find all the episodes of Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe right there, as well as all the rest of the great programming that we bring you every single week here via the Hudson Media Group. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow me on Twitter. Actually, it's X now, at the Fernando Zone. And you can also follow this program at Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe, as well as my own personal Instagram at the Fernando Zone as well. Folks, new episodes of the award-winning podcast Talking the Hudson will resume later this fall, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for that, as I'll have great guests back on the show. You can check out recent episodes by going to blogtalkradio.com/The Talk in the Hudson. We'll be interviewing all the major political players, whether it's incumbents, mayors, legislators, council people, and much more, folks. You can always rely on Talking the Hudson to give you the best local news on a podcast format every single week, once again, via Blog Talk Radio. So check out episodes by going to blogtalkradio.com/Talk in the Hudson, and you'll be very impressed, as well as everybody else continues to be in Hudson County. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine and the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, as well as being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, along with the People's Voice and the People's Choice, and certainly, ladies and gentlemen, the most handsome face that runs this place. That's right, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Once again, thank you for supporting the Hudson Media Group and all the great programming that we bring you every single week. We're doing our part to inform the community and to keep you really in the know about what's going on in Hudson County. So I'll see you all next time here on Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe. And thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for watching Hudson Media Group. Follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook